What can we really trust? That is the question for today. Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to my channel. My name is Thomas, and I do educational videos on, we'll be rolling out many different topics over the next year. But right now, we're focused primarily on studying the tree of life. I'm a big proponent of the tree of life. It's really helped me in my life since I learned it about 25 years ago. And it's basically a map of our faculties of consciousness. And so we can study it to learn more about ourselves. But we also can study it because it really kind of shows us how to prioritize things, how to put things into proper proportion, and how to recall them. It's an elaborate mnemonic device. So here we go. Here is the tree of life. This is what it looks like. It's a diagram. You've probably seen it before. It's also called the Hebrew Kabbalah, although the Hebrew Kabbalah has a much different interpretation. The tree of life goes all the way back to at least ancient Egypt. And like I said, it's more or less a map of our faculties of consciousness. You can see here that there are 10 different circles or spheres, and they are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then there is an abyss right here, which is an implied sphere. And then there is a 0 above the tree. So that makes a total of 12 different categories on the tree. And these 12 different categories basically represent our faculties of consciousness, or our abilities of consciousness. If we can learn how these work, then we could put things into perspective. Aleister Crowley called the Tree of Life a mystical filing cabinet, and even though Crowley was a Satanist, and this Tree of Life is used by a lot of Satanists, it's not evil in and of itself. It is a diagram with numbers and a geometry to it. And so I don't think most people would say that math is evil, or maybe I'm wrong about that, or geometry is evil. But it's a technology just like anything else, where its value is based on the intention of the user. And not only that, but if we can really understand the tree, we can understand how they're using it against us. So it's a self-defense method, as well as a method of really being able to integrate a great amount of curriculum. So all the courses that I'll be teaching coming up on this channel will be more accessible, understandable, rememberable once we lay the groundwork with the Tree of Life. So that's why we're dedicating the first 6 months or so of this channel to this. Okay, now the 10th sphere is about our survival instinct. So this is our sense of instinct. This is our life force, the state of nature, our wild animal consciousness. The kill or be killed, or the fight or flight response. And then, the life force is our, involuntary or unintentional ability to keep ourselves alive. Our body takes care of all this stuff. And when we do apply our own kind of volition to this, it tends to be a negative 10th sphere, because these are like defilements and lusts of the body that actually destroy our life force or inhibit our life force. So, if we just let it alone, it will work very well for a very long time. Okay, then we've got the night sphere. If the 10th sphere is a wild animal, the night sphere is like a domestic animal. And this really has to do with the first several years of our life when we're growing up. You know, we're in the home in a domestic situation, and we are highly receptive because everything is new to us. So we're watching everything, we're gazing intently, and we're particularly watching our caregivers and other people in the house and watching what they do. We're soaking all that up, and then we eventually try to imitate what they do. And then we practice that imitation until we get it right. And then once we get it right, we do it enough times so that we actually memorize it. And that kind of makes it download even into the 10th sphere. So basically summing up the ninth sphere is you have heightened receptivity, imitation, practice, and memorization. Now the ninth sphere lacks discernment, so it can't really tell the difference between right and wrong or good and evil. So it will imitate and copy anything regardless of its, abusive nature or not. Okay, so now we've got the eighth sphere. If the ninth sphere is our domestic sphere, the eighth sphere is our public sphere, or the public consciousness, the consensus worldview. Everybody knows that. The establishment and the institutions are all here. This is where you have your schools and your churches and your political bodies and your media, and all the establishment is here. This is where really all the resources are. And they basically sit here and tell us what we're supposed to believe about the world. The experts tell us, where the universe came from. The theologians tell us who God is. And, they give us the standards. They tell us what's good and what's bad. This is a great movie. This is terrible. And so they're always critiquing things and making judgments about things. And but this is where all the resources are. So they're expecting us to pay attention to them, and then also to really believe what they say and follow along. So this is really where our belief systems are, and also our logical faculty. Our logical faculty will help us to, get into the eighth sphere, and then to move on. Now, if we go with a negative eighth sphere, negative logical faculties will end up kind of getting caught in this eighth sphere, because we'll make various assumptions that kind of go against logic, such as just because everybody believes it, that means it's true. And you will use rationalization, where they think, everybody says the emperor has no clothes, and so even though that goes against my direct experience, I'm going to discard my direct experience and accept their word for it. And many other types of logical fallacies will cause you to invert your eighth sphere and to kind of be stuck there, because they portray the eighth sphere as being really the be-all, end-all, like the measure of success in the universe, in the world. And so once you get there, you don't need to go anywhere. So your whole life is kind of bent on trying to get into this eighth sphere. The problem is that the eighth sphere is a trickster. So what they tell you is not necessarily the truth. It's told to you for the purposes of their purposes, the powers that be, to control you. And whether it's true or not, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Use your logical faculty, and you can, make decisions about that. But if you recognize, like if you see the tree, you can recognize, okay, the eighth sphere is just our third faculty that we're trying to access. there's 9 more faculties that we have. So this is not the end of the line. I got to keep moving. So when you go into the A sphere, you really just try to give it lip service and get what you need and then get out of there. So you get what you need in the A sphere. This is all where all the best jobs and all the higher status and all this is located. You don't need all of that, although you do need a little of it. And then you move on. Now the 7th sphere, if the A sphere is like the public consciousness or the real world, the 7th sphere is the imaginary world. So this is what we think is kind of an alternative to the A sphere, where the 7th sphere is what we imagine the A sphere could be like if it were the best of the best world. And so this is the imagination. We also have here the inspiration, people who've been models for us that we can follow and stand on their shoulders. We have intuition, a source of going inside to determine what is, what our course of action should be by just being curious about these things, asking how things are, and then verifying the answers that we get. Also, we have the creativity, putting things together into new arrangements, and our pleasure principle, putting them together in harmonious relationships. So we end up coming up with a creative product here, whether it's a song or an essay or an invention that tries to provide alternatives to the A sphere. This is also where our higher calling is located, which propels us up the tree. So this is like what we are actually here for as individuals. This is the best version of ourselves, where we recognize what we're here for, like what our specific purpose is, to contribute maximally to the universe. Okay, then 6th sphere is really our free will faculty. And this is really at the center of the tree. If this is our map, it would say you are here. And our free will faculty consists of paying attention and making decisions. Our attention is generally directed here at the 8th and 9th sphere because this is what we're comfortable with. But at the 6th sphere, we can make a decision to turn our attention around, ignore these areas, and focus our attention on the higher part of the tree, which is mostly unknown, and so it requires some courage to be able to do that. We have to stand in the face of fear, but if we can do that, it will jumpstart our spiritual evolution. Now, when we focus our attention, we first start on the 5th sphere. Then, once we have it turned around, once we've made that decision, we focus it on the next one, which is the 5th sphere. This is our sense of justice. Our sense of justice, which you can also call karma. You can think of it as like a mirror being right here. This is just simply, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. And what comes around goes around. And cause and effect. This is cause and effect. So when we act, karma judges us based on violence, waste, and violation. So if we act violently, we will get a violent reaction in return. Now, here, before we started paying attention, we would call ourselves a victim. Oh, I'm being so unlucky. Look what happened to me. But here, once we start paying attention, we recognize whatever happens to us, we brought it on, whether that was in a previous lifetime or not. But we brought it on, and we caused it. And so we can learn to clean up our actions and thereby clean up our karma and thereby clean up our fortune, where we don't have bad things happen to us all the time because we're not putting that out there. Okay, then when we go to the 4th sphere, where the 5th sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law or the natural order, the 4th sphere is about the articulation of that law. This comes in the form of cosmologies and the ancient holy books. And many of them have stood the test of time. Most civilizations, if not all traditions, have these, where these basically are kind of scientific efforts to answer these questions, where these are just opinions. This is fiat or commandment, and this is observation. This is done through observing the world, investigating the world, measuring the world, and also intuiting about it. And so the approach that an individual here at the Sixth Sphere can make is to study really as many of these different cosmologies as possible from as many different traditions and wide viewpoints as possible, and then to integrate them or synthesize them or syncretize them with all of them together, along with your own experience. And you can do this through intuition. If you study long and hard enough, your intuition can take you the rest of the way to like what's really going on. So you can understand the universe, understand the the interrelationship between things. The Chinese call it the Tao. This is how we're arriving at our interpretation of the Tao. Okay, we've got the abyss right here. This is our psychic powers. Psychic powers are triggered by omens. An omen is like a magnetic charge. An omen is a synchronicity or a deja vu. It's a recurring name or number or theme. It's something that just sticks out to us as being very strange and anomalous. And that should trigger our psychic receptivity, that we notice that this is something important to pay attention to. And then the second part of it is our psychic heat, which is our ability to act upon the omen. The omen will usually contain a course of action. And so you have to notice the omen and then follow the action prescribed by the omen. Again, that takes great courage because you're putting yourself out there and you're out into the unknown again. Okay, then at the top of the tree we have 3, 2, and 1. These are our divine aspects within us. We have omnipotence, all-powerful, omniscience, all-knowing, and omnipresent, all present, all at once, eternally. We can tap into the third sphere, omnipotence. This is our power. This is really our potential. And it's really, a measurement of how we can culminate our higher calling, our mission, how we develop that mission and eventually fulfill it. It's a lifetime kind of thing. And we do this through using sound, rhythm, in particular the letters of the alphabet that each contain an element of power, and they each correspond to a certain sphere on the tree. And so each one of these kind of different powers or faculties that we have can be accessed or catalyzed through mantra. And so that is really kind of how the third sphere works, through sound synchronization, and being able to repetition, being able to repeat that. Okay, and then we have the second sphere, omniscience, all-knowing. This is wisdom, and the wisdom is basically our ability to solve problems. We can also propose solutions to others for problems, and we can even avoid our own problems before they even arise. And we do this primarily through deep meditation. If we can't get to that deep meditation, then we use an oracle or a divination system, which is a random system that we ask questions to, and it provides us with answers if we can interpret them. This is kind of like the tarot deck or something to that effect, I Ching. And then, but if we are a mighty meditator, then what we do is we end up shutting off our mind, shutting off our verbal thinking, which is done by staying off the content. We're still going to have thoughts, at least in the initial stage. We're going to have thoughts, but what really distracts us from meditation is the drifting of thought. So one thought leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and pretty soon you're like way down the track and you're out of meditation. You just have one thought at a time, but you grab onto that thought and then create more out of it. That takes you down to the bottom of the tree eventually. But if you can just stay off the content of your thinking and just observe what's going on, you will clear out your mind. And when you can clear out your mind, you will sink down into the depths of your mind, into your highest center, at your center. And this is what you see here. So this is through sound and this is through seeing. Here you are seeing the your center, your deepest center. That is the image of wisdom. Okay, and then the first sphere is our unification. This is omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. And again, we do this not by seeing to the center of the mind, but actually being at the center of the mind, merging with our highest self at the center, our singularity. We'll be talking about this today as well, but so this is a unifying factor. This unifies us with all other beings because we see that's what's at our center is the same as what's at everyone else's center. Okay, then the zero that's above the tree is really the mystery of life and the mystery of the universe and the nothingness. Nothingness does not exist in the universe. There is no nothing in our universe, and the zero is also not part of our universe. It's outside the universe, but it is part of the creator. So it's the creator has created the universe, but the creator has some other beingness or not beingness that is outside the universe. And that's where the zero is in. So we're only indirectly able to tap into the zero. But if we are, it's very powerful. Just like the number zero, when the Arabs introduced, if this is accurate, maybe the history could be wrong or whatever. This is just the way I was told. But the Arabs introduced the zero into the mathematical system. That's when math really started to take off, when people really started to make headway, because it's a very powerful thing. But at the same time, it's also not true. You have to make certain assumptions, and you have to kind of be able to recognize that this is just a tool that we're using, and it's not really representing reality, because there is no zero in reality. You can subtract 1 minus 1 equals 0. That's really the only way you get to a zero, is through subtraction. But it doesn't correspond with any experience. You don't have any experience of zero. But the only potential experience with zero that you may have is consciousness. Okay, now that's the quick version of the beginner's version of the 12 different aspects of consciousness. Now, a slightly more advanced version I've developed, which is more or less fractalizing the tree. So you take the whole tree, it's got 12 different components. You apply all 12 components to one of the 12 components. So you break the 10th sphere down into 12, you break the 9th sphere down into 12, and so on, for a total of 144 different minor aspects of the tree, or what I call stages of life, spirituality, consciousness, and history. But those stages are not chronological stages as much as they are dramatic stages. So these are all the different dramas that we go through as we make our way through the universe. And I've compiled that list into a guide that I would be happy to share with you for free if you click the link in the description. Now, at the end of the video, we always talk about one of those 144 different faculties. Today, we're looking at number 123. What can we really trust? And this is within the first sphere. So this is where our omnipresence is, our unifying factor. This is merging with our higher self deep inside. This also has to do with geometry, as geometry is, the geometrical figures are perfect. And so we've got that, and then we also have the asphere. It's the eighth mini, aspect of the first sphere. Okay, so the asphere is, has to do with consensus, worldview, has to do with logical thinking, it has to do with belief systems. When you believe something, you don't know it by definition. So if you believe something, that means you don't know it. Well, so that is kind of where we are kind of flipping the asphere or moving it up into this higher category. So number 123 is called absolute certainty. Stage number 123 is about a geometrical or mathematical certainty. It always works, it's always right, regardless of the illusory world. Certainly, the isotropic vector matrix at our deepest center, or also, it's really the vector equilibrium or the cube octahedron at our deepest center underlies reality for us. The progression of the natural reference system, where each point is at the center of its own universe, is always there, everywhere, every when. Absolute certainty. Geometry and arithmetic are the only perfect sciences and the only infallible ways of knowing. The deities are geometrical figures, and they are composed of arithmetical concepts. These are the only perfections. And so not only do they best represent divinity, but they actually are divinity. Absolute certainty is limited by mathematical certainty. It is static in time. So we can never be absolutely sure that the laws will not change in the future or at a distant location. So there will always be a negligible amount of mystery in a universe of motion. Universe is not a system. Universe is not a shape. Universe is a scenario. But we are inside that universe in the process of that scenario occurring, within which we discover episodes. Systems are mini universes or microcosms. Systems spin, they orbit, they contract and expand, they torque or twist, they turn inside out and back again, and they interprocess their parts. Geometry is the first articulation of all phenomena. Arithmetic is the principle behind it. Nature is inherently eight-dimensional, 4 planes of symmetry shown in a star tetrahedron or the corners of a cube, then cascading up and down. We arrive at our deepest center by arriving at now, here, nowhere. Equilibrium, which is scalar motion at light speed in a universe of motion. Scalar motion, shown in the progression of the natural reference system, occurs from all points, an outward motion at the speed of light. This progression is inherently self-centered, shown in the cube octahedron, or vector equilibrium, which is the core of the star tetracube, where all points can be the center of the multiverse, while none of them are the circumference, until we choose a reference point. Upon arriving at the center, when one is the truth, one naturally knows the truth. 2. When we merge with the higher self at our deepest center, then there is absolute certainty as we tap the Akashic records and determine that what is at our center is what is at the center of everything else too. So we have a built-in line of communication with everything, a unification of all, past and present and future, to tap into absolute certainty. You are everything, and everything is you. Deep down at our center, we're all the same, divine. All persons are parts of one being. Higher self-identity is unconditioned, balanced, at equilibrium, at equanimity. Body, mind, spirit in alignment. Stay in our navel center. We feel the consciousness of being conscious. I am. Absolute certainty. Singularity. All right, that is number 123, the 8th fractal of the first sphere, absolute certainty. And you know, we will, these are just the short versions of these things. We will hopefully elaborate on them when the right time comes. We're just trying to lay the groundwork for the Tree of Life right now by laying out all 144 different fractal faculties, along with thorough repetition of the 12 major faculties. And I appreciate that you stuck around to the end of the video. Please press the like button if you you're so inclined. You can share the video with others. You can comment, make constructive comments in the comment section. You can subscribe to the channel. You can get my free guide to the 144 fractal faculties by clicking the link in the description. You can also donate directly to me through Cash App or Venmo. And stay tuned until for tomorrow, where I will be rolling out another one of the 144 fractal faculties, along with another once-over of the main 12 different major categories of the Tree of Life. So have a beautiful day. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.